Ladies and gentlemen, praise God and welcome in. This is the Matthew Dark Show. Now remember, hit subscribe everywhere you get your shows. Never miss an episode. We're going to cut right to the chase, folks. We're going to get right after. We are being lied to about the circumstances and the finality and the closure on the Charlie Kirk deaths. We don't believe for a second that the story that's being put out is going to be the one upon full investigation that clears. The text messages look like something faker than a $3 bill. We're going to go into those. The idea that we caught the killer. Nope, that wasn't him. Nope, this is the one. And he's actually left that perfect crumb trail, that smoking gun, the whole thing there for us to catch. And so what we'll be doing is kind of going through not directly who we know, how we know what they did, but what they are telling us, like so many other great government lies, whether that's 9/11, the 2020 election, the COVID shot, the COVID virus, you name it, we know it. They've been lying. This is not out of bounds for them to be lying about as well. Our dear friend of the show, great brother in the fight, health, freedom, and MAGA movement, Dr. Michael Gaeta. Welcome in, sir. How are you?
Matthew, great to be with you. I'm doing well. Thank you.
Well, and I don't want to be called Chicken Little or getting over extreme. I believe America right now, I mean, this was, to me, what they did to Charlie just a little over a week ago, last Wednesday, September the 10th, was what they were intending to do to Donald Trump, which was on live TV, take out in a very symbolic manner, very brutal, very violent, because they were going for Donald Trump's head too. You understand that if they shoot that through the lung, there is less dramatic for the eye. There is not this holy cow. Part of the thing that's going on with Charlie is we had such a good viewpoint of such a tragic and horrific scene. They were trying to create that with Trump in Butler, PA. That failed by the grace of God and a sliver of an inch. It was successful. Now, what they also told us in Butler, PA, similar to Charlie's assassination, was this was that lone rogue, radicalized, sort of out there guy that, you know, again, was cruising. Now, this was Secret Service. This was much different, much higher level of, you would hope, security for Trump. But it was that same guy, no social media, no real presence anywhere we could track him down, did it all by himself. And then we never heard anything about him. This is Thomas Crooks in Butler, PA. Flash forward.
Bizarre.
It's crazy. We still don't have any answers on it. What blows me away is that Trump doesn't demand that, as he was nearly had his head blown off by this person.
It's a little strange. Yeah.
Very strange. Table it, park it, because we flash forward to September the 10th. They were successful in silencing Charlie. Again, very odd circumstances now surrounding the killer. And I want to get into this killer because what they've advertised is this, and this is how we'll break it down. And then get your thoughts on it. Killer is a 22-year-old man, Tyler Robinson, from Utah, raised in a conservative manner. But he's now being painted as someone who was dramatically radicalized by LGBTQ, liberal philosophy, ideology, and was in a transgender relationship with the roommate. This is what they're telling us now. He's in love. You know, Montel Williams is describing the love that he had for this lover, this boyfriend. It's really quite filthy, some of the counter arguments to this person. But to go with the government narrative is that he is this 22-year-old boy in a homosexual deviant relationship with a man becoming a woman who's being so compliant with the FBI. They were very quick to say that this person is really being helpful and that we got him. And then they've released the text messages. And I do want to pull those up. We'll kind of be getting in there, but he got off the roof. He potentially disassembled the gun, reassembled the gun, left it in the woods. He wanted to live. This is my problem with the story, because if you don't care about living, you kind of do the Vegas shooter thing where you're going to blow your head off and you're going to make sure as many people as possible pay the price because you have no care about the ramifications. That's not what happened here. He actually made an escape and was in love. The story, the narrative is that Charlie Kirk was so mean to this community that in honor, to defend the honor of his love, he was going to take him out. That sometimes, in his quote, supposedly in there was, some hate can't be negotiated. Some things can't be, you have to resort to violence. I don't know, your first thoughts on this is the story. And so far, every conservative in the mainstream, every conservative in the non-fringe is, yep, that's the killer. He was radicalized, mark it down for another one. And we're going to give him the death penalty. I don't know. Your thoughts, doctor, on what we know so far? You're mute.
If I could, if you wouldn't mind, if I could play a short video.
Go ahead. What do
That
we
would
know?
be okay. If you
Please
just,
do. Yeah, get that up, that visual up for the listener.
it's ready. I just
Okay.
need a permission to share.
Yeah, let me grant that. I'd like to grant that to you immediately, that
Thanks.
kind of permission. Just tell me what to get. Okay.
Because this guy, it's a short video. He's raising these exact same questions.
Okay, good.
Saying
And this is what we want to know. What we're saying is we don't know everything. And you know, we're going to play some stuff, hopefully later, of Kash Patel.
Yep.
He is lying his brains out, and we're going to talk about those lies.
Yeah, okay. It smells a little weird. I will agree with you on that. It's just a little strange. It
smells or stinks, and we feel like we're being lied to. And had they not lied so aggressively, so egregiously, so over the top, so out of bounds with the Epstein case, the bumbling, the handling, then maybe we would be giving some, okay, well, let's wait and see. I mean, at least they're moving quickly. But that's not the case. They're fresh off the Epstein lie. They're fresh off the Epstein cover up. And now you're really cutting us another place where it hurts. An innocent man slain. You're saying you do need to send me something. You just tell me what to do.
If you could go to the Zoom, if you could go to Zoom and click on next to my name in the participant list.
Oh, okay. Let's just
will
get
be
you
3 dots, and you can either make co-host or enable sharing.
Oh, let's do just make that. Okay.
And then I'll be able to play this video, which is, you know, he's on the same wavelength. I'll say that.
Okay. Okay. Dang it. Yeah.
So in the Zoom at the bottom, it'll say participants. At the bottom.
Oh God, I've never seen. You know what? You're right here. Never mind.
And then it'll have my name, and then if you roll over the name, you'll see 3 dots.
Yeah, there we go.
And then you can make co-host.
Okay. Go ahead. I'm going to make you. I'm giving you all authority.
Yeah, just co-host is fine. And,
okay, go ahead.
Let me just get this queued up. I'm going to turn on.
Yeah, go ahead and cue this up, because again,
it's ready.
We have an obsession now with the truth. Let's have it.
Yeah, so let's listen to this guy.
Great.
If you want to know the truth behind the Charlie Kirk assassination, you can't turn to the media or to the government. We've been lied to about JFK, MLK, the shooting in Butler, the shooting in Vegas, vaccines, Epstein, and countless other events. So what makes you think that this time around they'll tell us the truth? But let me tell you the indisputable facts. This event was carefully planned. It was a professional marksman that aimed perfectly at the neck, so they wanted to make a gruesome statement that free speech is no longer safe. It's not a coincidence that seconds before he got shot, the trans debate was taking place. And a few days before that, he was raising doubts about the US government being owned by the Jewish lobby. This event is perfect to raise the hate bar between liberals and conservatives. And if, God forbid, something happens to a liberal political figure, then this could lead us into civil war. And it will give the people in power every reason to crack down on free speech and take away our Second Amendment. They want us to fight amongst each other. We have to be smart and see clearly, even with all the emotions. Let's not be silenced, let's not be divided, and like Charlie, let's keep fighting for our values.
Yeah, there you go.
Amen, and said better than I. That's wonderful. So that's what we're at, because we absolutely are at the point to where we're saying this doesn't work anymore, guys. It's not the 1960s. It's not the late 90s, early 2000s. Yeah. We've got immediate 100 cameras on the scene. We've got social media on the scene. We've got thousands of influencers and other alternative media forms bringing instant analysis to it. So this isn't going to be like where 9/11 is a great example. ABC, CBS, NBC, those narratives was all you're going to hear. And then kind of corresponding on the radio, one message, we're going after Osama bin Laden. That story that game is not going to lie. So he brings up two great points. The chaos desired by government for more control, that's what they've been doing. That's how we get our race wars. That's how we get all of our class wars, dividing people, open border. The more chaos in their minds, the more government control. So we know that's number one. And when things are chaotic, people are willing to sacrifice long-term freedoms for short-term security. And so that's how we've gotten to this point, and they've crept in all the way. I don't know. You tell me. It's clear we're being lied to. I guess why? And then where's the root of the lie?
Yeah, and I'm just reminded of 9/11 when, and I lived a few miles from there at the time in New York, from Ground Zero, from the World Trade Center. As the crow flies, I was probably about 6 miles away, if that. And it just sort of smelled weird. Like within hours, they found a vehicle among tens of thousands of vehicles in the car parking garage with the Quran on the seat, and passports magically fell out of the sky, laying on the ground outside the World Trade Center. Just all this stuff that just did not add up, was just super wacky. And then, with this case, he jumped off the roof. He somehow disassembled the rifle, reassembled it in the woods quickly. And this is not a standard, not an easy to.
You've heard many experts testify that would be a challenging thing that you probably wouldn't do in those kind of circumstances.
For an expert to do that quickly.
Yeah.
And there it is. Oh, they found it within minutes in the, or a couple of hours in the wood. I mean, the lone shooter, kind of an Oswald kind of thing. And then, so it's just kind of like, wait a minute, this kind of smells a little, too neat, too pat, when there may have been more things going on. So I don't know. But, and then Pam Bondi, saying, hate speech has to be crushed. She walked it back because the backlash was intense.
Yes.
Appropriately, because that's what the leftists did during COVID was
they were going to dispel, they were going to enact basically a proper speech board, government run board.
Yeah, absolutely.
Basically, they were going for
sure.
this. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, this is acceptable speech. This is not. So she walked that back to just, things that specifically incite violence. But that didn't land well, and so this looks like it's all being sort of wrapped up very quickly, which again, maybe that's what happened. I don't know, but I have questions about it, for sure, as you do. That this is this sort of Oswald lone shooter idea, which obviously we know wasn't the case.
Right.
This is the Kennedy assassination was carefully planned.
Absolutely.
By CIA and other elements.
Yes.
It was a very carefully orchestrated hit, so to speak.
Clearly an
and
intelligence
this sort of
hit.
Seems like more likely to be the case here. So I don't know, but I'm just saying it kind of reminded me of all this, kind of neat, tie a bow on it within a few hours or a few days kind of thing. And also, the Butler shooter was kind of ignored after, so we still don't know. We know
Nothing.
almost nothing, which is kind of bizarre, So anyway, I'm not really sure. And there's a couple of ways to look at it. One is this was, heinous assassination by a radical leftist, where most of the political violence is coming from in general. If we look at the healthcare CEO, and
Yes.
All of the and just on the list is pretty long, and the guy who shot up the, the Catholic Church, all of this. So we could see that, rising political violence, especially from the left, and how is that going to be? How is that going to go? And then I look at, God can use any adversity to advantage.
Yes.
However terrible something is, God can use that to bring some good out of this terrible thing. And that's happening a lot. And that's kind of the thing I'm also impressed by, despite not knowing really what happened and not being totally satisfied with the official story. I'm really amazed at how much this eminently good man and a father of two young children, who was just, having honest, respectful debate, which is something so lacking these days. It's just dialogue, discussion, talk to each other. And the response globally has been astounding. Vigils all over the world, in Korea and England, 1 to 3 million people marching in England, partly related to Charlie's assassination, partly just to overcome the Muslim police state that England has become, and the limitless open border immigration that's destroyed the country by design, protecting women there from just horrifying abuse and rape in England, hundreds of thousands of cases in recent years. So happening everywhere in France, in Germany, in South Korea, and throughout Europe. Peaceful Charlie vigils happening. In contrast to the BLM Antifa burn down cities, looting, murdering, burning down businesses, people looting, taking over parts of Seattle. Very different
Can have
response.
more opposite responses.
Yeah, opposite response for sure, for sure. And again, it's coming out now, and it's coming out from the top down that all of these leftist groups are very well organized, very well funded, and now they want to investigate the groups that are funding these terrorist organizations to see what's up with that. So there's several layers here. One is the tragedy, and what hits me the hardest is father of two young kids. Those two young kids don't have a dad anymore. That's just beyond horrible. And just the injustice of this heinous political violence. And the second part of me is looking at, like, what really happened. I don't know, but it smells weird. My spidey sense is going off, like this is a little strange, the official story. And then the third thing is just this remarkable positive response. Did you know that Charlie's social accounts have gained 28 million followers across all platforms in less than in like
More
3
than
days.
he had anyways.
Oh, multiples.
Yeah,
Multiple. He had a huge following already.
This is
But
bigger.
now it's like 4x, 5x, 6x within days. Even more significant, his Turning Point USA, which is encouraging, freedom, patriotism, personal responsibility, faith, family, freedom in high schools and colleges, really good thing to counter the Marxist influence, is they had 3,500 chapters. They had 3,500 chapters nationally, which is a lot. They just got 58,000 applications in the past week. 58,000. That's going to 18x the reach of this, very wholesome, organization. That's remarkable. So as nobody wish other than the ultraviolet leftists, nobody wishes this happen, but it did, and that's terrible. But the good that's coming out of it globally, people are rising up, peaceful populist uprising against globalism, open borders, replacement of the indigenous populations by foreigners who don't share their values. All this stuff is happening and catalyzed by this terrible tragedy. So I'm seeing good come out of terrible event. I don't know exactly what happened, but I know good is coming out of it. And it has exposed the ultra-violent leftist faction in the country, which is a small minority, but ultra-violent, who were celebrating and calling for more murder, more violence, more assassination, more death, more violence. And they've exposed themselves. Hundreds of them, thankfully, have been fired from their jobs, which is great because, who wants a person that hateful and violent, in their business? I don't.
It's outrageous.
And so that's another good thing, not the peaceful, peace-loving liberals. I have not a lot of problem there, But with this sort
Pretty
of
rare, though.
Marxist, ultra radical, I mean, yes, certainly disagreements on size of government and
Sure.
personal liberty and things like that. But it's making it clear the difference between liberals and leftists, right? And there's a big difference. And we use the terms interchangeably, but the thousands of people, thousands, maybe tens of thousands, who left the Democrat Party in the last week, who were
Yes.
sickened, nauseated, appalled, horrified
To cheer that.
by the response of the radical, far left, Marxist, ultra violent faction that has taken over that party has been astounding. So these are the left UGs, so to speak, who just can't. And so what my conclusion, Matthew, is that yesterday's Democrat Party, and I admit, when I lived in New York City, I read the New York Times every day. I voted Democrat reliably in the Bush-Cheney years because I hated the neocons and the warmonger, permanent eternal war everywhere neocons,
Yes.
which have now taken over the Democrat Party. But at the time, these were Marxists inhabiting the Republican Party. Now they're Marxists inhabiting the Democrat Party. And I vehemently opposed this warmonger, eternal war everywhere, kind of thing. So I have no shame in admitting that. But back then, the Democrat Party were liberals, and they were run by liberals, right? Old school liberals like Bill Clinton, back in the day, JFK. And where I lived in New York State, or New York City, folks like Cuomo and Moynihan. These are old school liberals who were patriotic, and they believed in free speech, and they believed in peace. And now that faction is dead. Today's Democrat Party, and more so tomorrow's Democrat Party, are completely run, controlled, taken over by ultra left, like left of Mao, left of Lenin, almost.
Yes.
Ultra violent, radical, leftist and Marxist. And I've been, having heated discussions on Facebook with bolder friends who are liberals, and they're in a spot because they condemn the Charlie thing, but they're trying to figure out how to support their party while it's been taken over by this ultra-violent radical faction. And they're having a hard time because I can hear it in their words between the lines. They just can't. They're having a hard time reconciling this. I'm a TDS Democrat.
That's pride.
I guess so.
Yeah.
So I'm a TDS Democrat all the way. But these people who are in the same party are crazy.
Yes. Yeah, that's right.
Completely insane, ultra-violent, gleefully celebrating the murder of an innocent man and a father of two young children. They can't. They're having a hard time reconciling that. One of them said, who is honestly a friend. We have honest, heated debates, and it's fine. We respect each other and positive regard, kind of like what Charlie would like.
Sure.
Honest, respectful debate. And he even said, "Oh, nobody's celebrating Charlie Kirk's assassination." And so that was my clue, my cue to just I posted like a dozen, 24 of these ultra leftists saying, "Oh, good, who's next?" That sort of thing. Like, this is great, yay, rot in hell, all this type of stuff. So this is a real inflection point, as you said in your opening comments, that nothing's going to be the same, and this is a major turning point in American history and in the evolution of this country. And I think ultimately it's going to be very, very much for the better. As hard, I don't wish that this happened at all. This is horrible. Like many people, I cried. This is terrible. And but I think a lot of good is and will continue to come out of it.
Here's the greatest fear, and I want to do one thing and make sure on the record we reject 100% full stop the government story right now surrounding Charlie Kirk's death. So we're moving beyond.
It's a little sus. It's definitely
that's
sus.
not going to fly. It's not going to fly because we have habitual liars now telling us that this is exactly what happened. So we reject that. All those that support the story. Here's my concern. Your future outline, I agree, matches up well with a radicalized left that went out and did a political assassination. It was cheered on by the left, and it spurned this Christian conservative movement. Hearts got on fire. People went to church. They got involved. They got stronger than ever. To me, that's based on that being in the lie of this was a radicalized person, and the trans ideology now has reached to the top. And I believe that the liberal media is overplaying this his hatred, meaning they're all, it feels very synthetic, because it's really hard to find hate-filled speech, even like where you could kind of say, boom, Charlie went too far there, that was really mean-spirited. It's really hard to find where he didn't articulate his point
for sure.
in a Christian conservative
very
solution-based, okay, very respectful.
Very respectful.
So here's what we have to do. We have to move beyond that. If that's a lie, then that means it wasn't another lone gun shooter that we just haven't found yet. Right. It means it's a completely different cast of characters. Yes. And I want to get into that for the folks right now, because the same day that Charlie was assassinated, the U.S. Senate, 51-49, voted not to release the Epstein files to the public.
Yeah, that was the Republicans that blocked that.
Correct.
That was not cool.
That was not cool. And so I want them to start there with this idea that radical left, to me, if I'm in the middle and I look at the lying and this sort of manipulation and, quite frankly, the BS from this administration, it would be really hard for me to say I'm going with them. Before Trump got in office and before the lies all started, the Epstein lie is just a July where Trump said, you and I are stupid. You and I are Democrats, essentially.
What are you still talking about that for? Yeah.
Well, exactly. And now apparently either Republicans, because I don't actually believe every member of the Senate right now is on the list. So obviously there's collusion going on to block that. Republicans are demanding it. Democrats are demanding it. And you notice how we're not making a huge fuss of that. So I want that to kind of be in the background for folks as we begin to outline and dance around what's going on.
Yeah, that was surprising.
The Epstein files is the most critical thing to the existence of the current world and global order. That is fact, not fiction. Once the first domino begins to fall in that case and we get the disclosure, it's all over. So that's number one. Number two.
Yep.
Charlie was onto a topic, and where I disagree, Charlie was so sound biblically. He was so sound constitutionally. He was so sound. I mean, he just got it at such a young age. So, I mean, I'm going to always have just incredible admiration for just what an anointed man to have that kind of wisdom that early and then put it to you. I mean, do what he did. So I'm going to always just say, wow, what a great man God created and how much he was blessed by being obedient to God's calling. So I want to give that just always known to Charlie. Charlie was moving into an area of conversation that really is the breaking point. This is the breaking point.
The Israel thing?
Our Israel relationship. And so there's much talk about that. And so again, if we don't have the lone sort of autistic shooter who's been radicalized and done it, right? He's a crack shot too. These shots are amazing that these lone wolf guys are taking, but evidently they're good at that. So let's set that aside. We know it wasn't a lone deranged shooter. No, it wasn't. We're going to talk, and let's just make that for the record real quick. They advertised that bullet as a direct on. We know for a fact that came from his right side and exited his left side. We know that's the trajectory. They did the same lies of JFK. There was two bullets. I mean, it's not going to work this time, guys. Sorry. We had too many cameras, not the one grainy one on JFK. We have all these. So we're going to get you. You can keep lying, but that's why we're doing stuff like this, because we're saying we're going farther. But this is what Charlie has said, and you're starting to get the rumblings, the ripplings of people that are close to him. Tucker Carlson just made this notice. Tucker Carlson Charlie Kirk did not like Benjamin Netanyahu, thought he was a bully, didn't agree with what was going in Gaza, thought he was a bad guy. Right. And I actually interviewed a pastor, Rick Wiles, once, and he said he did an Christian Israeli mission trip over there. He spent some time with him. He said, when I looked in his eyes, I thought I was looking at a great white. I saw death. This is a scary man. And so, that's been obvious by his actions. Of course, he's been accused of politically assassinating. He was a big fan of the 9/11 war because it brought America in the Middle East. He's been an instigator. He's Polish, but they moved to Israel and he sort of sought power. Most people say if the war was over, he would be in jail or executed. He'd be toast, right? He is not liked in Israel. But the point is this, is that there was an infusion on the table to Charlie Kirk's Turning Point USA of $150 million coming directly from Bibi made that engagement. That's
Really?
that's reporting. That's being reported. And what's being reported is that he rejected those funds. Why? He thought that that was going to come with too much strings attached,
Wow.
because he had begun to pivot. And if you listen to recent stuff from Charlie, what he had begun to say is that, of course, what they're doing in Gaza is horrific. I don't think anybody can go around saying, yeah, keep going, get every last kid on the planet. But set that aside, is he had begun to
actually, Matt,
yeah,
Matt,
go ahead.
let me just ask you about that, because this is something that I think you probably know more than I do about.
Yes.
So once, and this is what Charlie said some time ago, not
Yes.
terribly long ago, that Israel is defending itself. It has the right to self-defense. Hamas is the problem,
Yes.
not Israel. Hamas doesn't care about the Palestinian people at all. They just care about power. They use them as pawns. They hide their operations in hospitals and schools and other places where there are civilians, so they're really hard to get to. And Israel, there's going to be casualties. I'm kind of paraphrasing Charlie. Yeah. There's going to be casualties in any war, especially if you hide among the civilian population. Kind of like what Bibi has been saying for a long time.
Yes.
So that's all one side of the narrative, and then the other side is total, murdering of the civilian population. So what's your take on all that?
So, and I'm so glad you phrased it, because what's happening here, and some people had evolved their thinking around Israel prior to October 7th. For others, it has taken sort of the annihilation of Gaza and this just, thirst for more to really open their eyes. But the reality is that Charlie showed incredible evolution since October 7th. And Charlie actually went on the record much before this recent commentary and was saying, was there a stand down order on October 7th? Was there a stand down order? Meaning there was the military response, the IDF response was 6 hours from first bullet fired. What he's suggesting is that it takes maybe less than 2 hours to go tip to tip in a helicopter in Israel. So how could it have taken it? You can't walk. He also describes being a great lover of Israel and being in Israel and just the sort of just spiritual magic happening in that land. He said you can't walk 10 feet without some kind of military armed guard. It's a very secure country. And so the fact that so he said
this
that
was like a
on.
Butler, Pennsylvania stand down.
Exactly. And because why, if you believe and subscribe to the belief that Bibi knows that he has to be in this situation to stay in power. Greater Israel is a real thing. That's why they're in Qatar. That's why they're in Somalia. I mean, that's why they're in Yemen. It's why they're doing all the way outside of Gaza. Now, the fact that they have this license to go into every country that also happens to be on that Great Seven Wars list is so that begins to be a thought or a topic of conversation on Charlie's shows. And really what I think did him and he's also got the private text messages. Now this is also from Harrison, he's on InfoWars, but what he posted about a month, 3 weeks ish ago, that I'm not going to name names, but someone close to me who knows Charlie has confided that Charlie said, if I change my stance on Israel, I'm worried they're going to kill me. And so what I think is clear that happened is that he started as an advocate for Israel's, they have the right to defend themselves. And, and I think as the numbers grew in Gaza and the annihilation grew, it was like, okay, at some point though, where do we say that this like 3-year-old has nothing to do with this? And you can't just keep killing and keep our support. So I think for a lot of people, as time wore on, that flavor for this Judeo-Christian, we're in this together, greatest ally, that began to lose steam. And then great influencers were putting out work to say, well, these aren't Jews from the Bible. This isn't Moses and Abraham. This isn't Isaiah and Malachi. These are like the Pharisees. These are the ones that these are the monsters that are hypocrites that Christ hated so much. That's how we know that is because look at the fruit. We know Chuck Schumer and Adam Schiff, Rochelle Walensky, Alejandro Mayorkas, Rachel Levine. These are all highly placed, highly influential. And you go to the business world, it's everywhere. Dual citizen Israeli. We do not share the same values. And I believe Charlie was saying Turning Point doesn't share the same values as the Israeli government. So I can't take that money in good faith. And here's where I'm going with this, because this is what happened. My parents are of a baby boomer age
Right.
Early to mid 60s
Right.
and up. And I would say, give me the demographic of, say, 50 to 75 years old is kind of in the wheelhouse where we get this Judeo-Christian, Israel is our greatest ally. We had more religion in the country back in their upbringing, and that influence was very much interlinked and connected, Judeo-Christian, the
Right.
Old Testament to the New. And if you can't, my parents would never even think that there's a evilness or a wickedness behind Jewish or Judaism or Israel. I mean, they won't even stand for it. But then I say, but they had these in the Old Testament too. They had these with Jesus, where you say you love God, but you look what you do. So the hypocrites, the Pharisees, the ones that executed and had Christ killed. That generation is supporting, legacy media is supporting this Israeli-America alliance. Okay, that's intact. Here's why Charlie was selected, as he's got to either go all in on Israel or we got to take him out. He is speaking to an age 18 to 25, 18 to 30. That's his wheelhouse.
Yep.
If you sever this brotherly love with the United States in that demographic, meaning that demographic doesn't view Israel like my parents do, the greatest ally. They view them more like North Korea or some kind of barbaric country in Africa. And if you were to really pull the veils back, I mean, what they've done in Gaza is unforgivable. But setting that aside, that demographic now becoming aware of just the reality of modern day Judaism and being like, okay, am I all in for that, or would I pick differently? And I think they said, holy cow, this will be where we lose our connection to America, when millions and millions of new voters that have money, that vote and move elections, the movement you just described, is so big and growing. Israel, the nation of, and the powers that serve its interests, AIPAC and all of our elected officials and all this, they could not lose that. That was going to cut that. It was over from there. That group was not going to continue to vote for them. So here's where this is like a super big deal now. Guess who's trying to snake and wiggle his way in to that Turning Point USA? I'll pick up where Charlie left off. You know it.
Ben.
And I couldn't think of a more reckless replacement, a more irresponsible, but yet certainly going to conform. So here's what I say. If they can take that same demographic and align it with Ben Shapiro thinking, who's nothing like Charlie, then they're going to capture that generation that Charlie built, and they're just going to steal those minds and try to twist it and keep it going as an Israeli-American alliance. And here's why. Because Ben Shapiro and him are not the same. One reeks of snake oil, one reeks of authenticity and anointment.
Yeah, I agree with you on that vibe thing. I think Charlie was just suffused with goodness.
Yes.
And he was like the happy warrior.
Yes.
And, just he was just very bright. And Ben definitely has a darker vibe to him. This just came out 3 hours ago from TPUSA. It is our great pride to announce Gaeta Kirk as the new CEO and chair of the board for Turning Point USA.
Yes.
So
not that position. Not that position.
Oh.
And what they're going to come in and try to do is now work on her, that same kind of thing that Charlie was doing. I'm talking, she is not going to go sit at college campuses and do what Charlie did. She doesn't have the skill set, most likely. Ben would try to do that.
Ben will continue to do that.
That's where I'm talking about. So whether he's not that he's CEO, he's now the face of that generation, and the message is from him, not Erica.
I don't know.
But you can see
have that.
He's a grifter, and he wants to. And he said that the reason he said that way is he was trying to be first to market. They were just co-hosting, Matt Walsh and the whole crew from Daily Wire. But he said, "I vow to pick up Charlie's blood-soaked microphone and continue." And what he was referencing was that college campus. So what I'm telling you is that going to work for the college mind that was enthusiastic and passionate about Charlie, but now it's Ben Shapiro selling this Israeli. And just so the listener knows, with Ben Shapiro, this is a hardcore Jew that believes that Jesus Christ, he wasn't even a prophet, that he was a Jew that was killed for his trouble and then executed for it, but not even to give him the notoriety of a prophet, let alone the Messiah. So every time Christians are like, well, that's my Jewish brother, just so you know, your Jewish brother has some really nasty things to say about our Messiah, and you might want to reject that and say, actually, we're the chosen people. Why? Because that's what the New Testament, Paul tells us. Christ says now we're one seed. And when they get confused about Genesis 12, There isn't even an Israel in existence at that time. It's talking about
Right.
Abraham. And so anyways, it's time for Christians to take back their authority in Christ and say, does
Yep.
this, if it doesn't pass the smell test, I'm not supporting it, even if it's
Right.
Israel. And they were awakening to that.
So Matt, I just want to make sure I understand, because I
Yes.
think, as I said, I think you're more up on this than I am. That Israel's gone beyond, we're defending ourselves against evil
Yes.
terrorist Hamas folks, and they've gone beyond, we're just defending our homeland kind of thing.
Absolutely. And because, you
Okay.
know, we have over 50,000 young people, meaning under 16 years old, that have been killed in Gaza. Gaza is, yeah, that's the stat.
50,000?
50,000. You see, the people that
Really?
understand, yes, the 2.1 million people that live in Gaza, and they've also destroyed all but 2 Christian churches in the Gaza area. That Gaza Strip area was mixture of Jew, Palestine, and Christian. It's all gone. It's all gone. And if people look at a map, you can see areas of, but yeah, there's 50,000 people under 16-year-olds. This is what they don't understand. 2.1 million people lived in the Gaza Strip. 50% of their population is under 18. Okay. So
Whoa.
very young. And those that weren't killed, there is nothing to come back to. And so they've gone, and we know they've gone above and before, because now they're hunting down Hamas in Qatar, and Qatar is supposed to be a friend of the United States, sort of in the middle, and now they're there. And so this is the real deal. America needs to stop, but we say, can they stop? Well, the alliance is too tight. The alliance is too severe. We're not going to do it. And this Charlie movement had the potential to sever that. And if that severs, I mean, you got to understand, I mean, in the Epstein case, you got to always just know it's in the background, because if you were to get the truth about Lex Wexner, and I want our listeners to know this, and I kind of want our folks to go hear this and go just do this Google kind of trail. Les Wexner was the CEO, or is the CEO, of Abercrombie Fitch, The Limited, and Victoria's Secret. Okay. So many billionaire times over. Yeah. Everybody knows that Jeffrey Epstein was given power of attorney in the 90s, and then the head of his foundation for 15 years. And he was also gifted all kinds of expensive properties. Jeffrey Epstein had the second largest house in Ohio, and it was purchased for him by Lex Wexner. And so the biggest thing about that is this: he's the most notorious criminal, pedophile ever. Lex Wexner has never had a media interview. He's never had a law enforcement interview. He's never even been contacted. And so what we know here is that we're just being lied to so much in so many spaces. And we have to step back and say, does everything pass the smell test? Because I'm trying to find truth, even though it hurts. I'm trying to see where is righteousness versus wickedness. I want to know that. And right now there's so much confusion, and they're trying to build it through chaos and trauma and fear to see what people saw. Now let's slip this to them. So I just think it's a scary time for our minds, but really time to be illuminated.
So Matt, do you think, so Bibi cuts Charlie a check, Charlie refuses. Was this like an IDF or Mossad hit?
I think it's an intelligence hit for sure. I think it always has to be known by our intelligence in these kind of cases, because you think you're going to really set him. I believe it or not, because we know President Trump is not the same man that came down that escalator.
Oh, for sure.
Was he aware of the hit? He made a very disturbing comment to me. You know, of course, he came out and said some nice things about Charlie. But it was just a couple of days later, they were asking him, hey, President, Trump, how are you holding up with everything so far, or, with the last couple of days with the killing? And pretty good, I think. And then he goes, and over here, you're going to see they're going to start construction over here. And it was an odd tell, because see, because there was this just change in sincerity, change in empathy. And the reason I say this is because when you just hit it on the head earlier with what you said this, he left 2 children. Okay, so there's sadness and an emptiness. And so when I think of this, I think of Charlie. I have so much anger and I have so much sadness for what they did to him, because those 2 children, the only thing I can kind of, when I think of the situation, I'm like, I'm just grateful they're young. Maybe it's not as painful as it would be if they were 10 or 12, but it makes me so mad what they stole from his family. That's the part that's just like, okay, I'm not going to take your bullcrap lie about this too. So you took a great man, and now you want to lie to me about it. I mean, it's very similar to Kennedy, and I'm not suggesting, but it's so similar. It makes me sick. And what was Kennedy against? Well, he didn't want Israel with nukes. He wanted them to register as a foreign agent. He was against the Federal Reserve. He was against the wars. And that's everything that the deep state and our powers support. So we're going to keep digging. Now, Candace Owens has been all over the Israel thing. She's
Oh,
also
yeah.
dear friends. Now,
Hard.
she has done something. Now,
Hard.
here's what's great for people like ourselves that now have to sift through truth and lies. She's now claiming that Charlie had confided that he was converting to Catholicism, that was the truest way.
What?
That's her most, and that sounds totally crazy. Now, I haven't heard that that's been verified by her, that that's
Wow.
been said from her to others and being reported. I have to follow up on that, because that's also a curveball. We would never suggest that from Charlie Kirk. He's an evangelical Protestant Christian, and that would be, not even hard to prove that, right? And so that's what was in his heart. So he was doing that. He was moving forward with the most powerful action, which was, we're getting to the youth, we're getting back to God, family, Constitution, and the American dream. And those don't fit these other categories of mega government or foreign lobbyists, or it fits the American dream. And so we have to kind of always keep that American dream so elusive that the people are going to concede for second place, second best. Give me your final words here on this. I want to get us cut up, and I want to get us up and running tonight, but kind of give us your final take on, I mean, this is a confusing time for America, and kind of, are we going to demand the truth permanently from here on out?
Yep. Yeah. Thank you, Matt. And this is, I think I was at the funeral of my best friend's dad many years ago, and he gave the eulogy. My friend, who's a minister.
Okay.
And he said the best way we can honor someone who has passed is to embody their finest qualities ourselves. And so, as you kind of doing what God does as best we can, which is to make goodness as much as possible out of terrible adversity. I think that's one thing we can do. So I think my answer for your question, it's a great question, is to be like Charlie, in a sense of fearlessly, courageously telling the highest, best, most accurate truth that we know. And that's what he did. That's, I think, what we're called to do, to be witnesses to the highest truth that we know, to be courageous about that, to know that it entails risk to do that, whether you lose a so-called Facebook friend or face some criticism or, whatever. Just like my school was censored and deplatformed 2.5 years ago and just taken down by the woke leftists in Manhattan because they didn't like what we had to say about vaccines and COVID, that there's risk involved in doing that, but that is worth it. And so I think, I'm celebrating the good that is coming out of this worldwide. I'm with you. I want the truth to come out, whatever it was, however messy it is. Bobby Kennedy said, that the ship has sailed on his uncle's assassination. I don't think there's going to be any more action on that. But this just happened. And so there's a lot that can be revealed, and I want to learn that too, even if it is messy, even if it is like, oh, Mossad was involved. I don't know. But whoever was involved, in addition to this kid, who his mom says was radicalized over the last year, whoever was involved and exactly what happened, I would like to know. I think his family deserves to know. Erica deserves to know. So I think we need to I think my takeaway is I have to step up my game in witnessing to what I know and not being ashamed of my faith, of being a Christian. That's not a bad thing.
No.
And there's goodness there that's I'm called to bring into the world as that. And I think that's that's at the end of the day, if we're changed in a positive way. If the world is changed in a positive way, which I think it is being, then his death was not in vain. And the thing he lived for will live on in us, which is faith, family, and freedom, courageously telling the truth, knowing the risks, and being that joyful, peaceful warrior for good.
Yeah, that's well said. Dr. Michael Gaeta, it's michaelgaeta.com. We're going to have you back. We're going to follow this story. This won't resolve
Yes.
itself this week. We're going to
Let's do
stay
that.
diligent and pushing on it. And so we thank you for your time today. We'll get this up all the places. So hit subscribe, follow michaelgaeta.com, everywhere you need. Mondays with Michael, I know you're doing regularly, so folks can hit the website, get reminders for that. But do this until next time. Serve God, help others, stay good. Goodbye. God bless everybody.
The Matthew Dark Show, your one-stop show for truth, courage, fellowship, and faith. Available everywhere you get your podcasts.